Welcome to Turning Pages with Mel. We embark on a journey through life's ups and downs, navigating the complexities of being single at 40 and wanting to be married. We'll be nurturing a strong mindset, delving into the world of books, and embracing a faith-based lifestyle. I'm your host, Mello, and I'm thrilled to have you here with me today. In a world that often celebrates fleeting connection and promiscuity, being single at 40 can sometimes feel like an uphill battle. We as women face trials unique to our own journey, from societal pressures to the occasional fear of walking this path alone. We'll dive deep into discussions about faith, dating, mindset, money, and health. Loneliness can cast a shadow on anyone's path, but we're here to shed light on dealing with the pain of solitude and finding ways to connect even when it feels like you're alone. And that's not all. We have captivating guests joining us on this journey, sharing their experiences, insights, and stories of triumph. We'll have engaging discussions on mindset, gender wars, healing, trauma, dating, and marriage. Thank you for joining me on this adventure. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Together, we'll navigate the beautiful complexities of life as single, faith-driven, and empowered women. I know it's hard, we gotta try. Welcome to my first podcast episode. I am super nervous and super scared, but this episode I want to dedicate it to fear of things that are, hold us back, being in the frozen state. When I announced a couple months ago in 2023 that I was going to start a podcast, I didn't expect anyone to respond. I don't have a huge following on social media. And I was wondering, I'm like, is this a trend that I was just going up on, such as buying a Stanley Cup or something? Or was it something deeper? Was it something that was challenging me and calling me to either make a difference or maybe challenge myself for self-growth? So I really questioned and backed down from even starting the podcast or recording it. And I had no idea what a podcast really entails. I thought you can just press record and that's it. I mean, that's technically what I'm doing now. But I'm learning that if you do want guests on your podcast, there's a lot of things that have to go on behind the scenes of apps that you use and marketing in terms of emailing your guest. And some guests are not going to take you unless you have a certain amount of subscribers. I'm learning this today, but I want to talk about fear. So according to goop.com, there are 3 types of fear: illogical fear, healthy fear, and real fear. Healthy fear helps us discern safe situations from dangerous zones, like stepping back from a high ledge. Real fear is based on reality, but isn't about physical danger. It's about losing loved ones, failing to achieve dreams, or the inevitability of death. Illogical fear, however, can be nullified with commitment and mental work. This understanding can motivate us to grow and push past our comfort zone. Clearly, fear has a place in our lives. For me, starting this podcast, it was a case of me trying to do it perfectly. I was fearing what other people think, a huge dose of lack of confidence, imposter syndrome maybe. I was in a state of fear. When you get into that state of fear of pursuing something, whether it's a weight loss journey, a relationship after you've been single for so long, or a business, you can be stuck for so long that your mental chatter will keep you back. And that one thing that you're fearing to do, it just keeps you frozen. So for me, I thought, maybe if I have a co-host, I'll be better at this. So I asked a guy, a gym buddy of mine, if he'll co-host with me. He's an extreme extrovert, I'm an extreme introvert, and I thought the two of us together would be good. Now, when I sat down and I thought about it, because this gym buddy of mine, he ended up flaking. He wasn't serious about starting a podcast and stuff, and I wasn't in the mood to chase anyone. So when he flaked, I said, okay, it's either I could do this on my own or I could just really use him, not being a part of it as an excuse not to pursue this. So I thank him for flaking on me and never questioned him why or never followed up with him. I have no ill feelings towards him or anything like that. I just said, it is what it is, and I'm going to challenge myself and get over the fear and start the podcast. Now, anybody can pick up a mic and start pressing record, and then I had to ask myself, well, who are you doing this podcast for, and what are you doing it about? I read a lot, and what I love to talk about is books and transformation, and also midlife. I'm 41 years old, and I realize a lot of content that's out there is not geared towards us. And then the lot of messagings that we do get for women in our 40s, it's really limited. Either we're not dateable and it's too late for us to change. And then the demographics. And I remember at a time where money was an issue for me, where I couldn't seek therapy and professional help or try these different healing modalities. I resorted to books and blogs and podcasts. That's what I did. So for me starting the podcast, I realized it's not about me. I want to give back. I want to give back for the years I've spent on my healing journey, the times where my mindset shifted and money started to come in, and then I did start to go into therapy and things that I learned. And those are just things that I want to give back to. So now I just want to talk a little bit about me, as if I'm not talking enough about myself. But here it is. I'm 41 years old. I'm single. I have a son. He lives in Florida with his dad while I reside in Trinidad. Now, I don't like living here. It's just, there's something with the culture here that I just don't resonate with. And then there's some things that I do enjoy, living here. As I've mentioned before, I'm an introvert and I love to read. Reading is my sanctuary. It's my joy. Gaining knowledge, I love it. I am a certified life coach, and I'm also a director of a family-owned business. As far as my personal job, I don't like it too much. There's a part of me that wants to be creative, and I like to express myself creatively, whether it's through speaking, through reading, or designing something. That's what, is at my heart. I have dabbled into New Age spirituality, but God is the center and focus of my life. Last year, I started reading the Bible and reverted to Islam in 2016. And I'm finding a lot of similarities between the Quran and the Bible. And I'm still wondering today, why do we have this conflict between each other? And I question a lot of things now when it comes to religion, the church and the mosque and these sort of organizations, especially when politics comes into play. However, God is a huge part of my life. So everything I do is with the grace of God. The other thing is that you should know about me is that I'm not a feminist. I consider myself conservative, and I have a lot of issues with the trending feminist, what they stand for. I don't stand for those things. And a lot of things that are trending, I have strong opinions about them. And some people like it, some people don't. And I'm not here to be liked by anyone besides myself, and God. As I've mentioned before, books. I can go on for days and how much reading has changed my life. And books have been my companionship in times where I have felt isolated. And did you know millionaires read at least 2 books a week? Some people, when I talk to them about books, they roll their eyes. They're like, I can't do it, all this sort of stuff. And for me, I'm like, find your technique. Find the way you like to read, whether it's audiobooks, digital books, Kindles. And here's a little, pointer. You could actually listen to 2 to 3 podcasts, or even just one of that author and you can get an idea of what the book is about. So you're still understanding, what the book is about and getting the information. Now, obviously, some of these heavier books like mindset and science and health and fitness, you want the physical book because they go into a lot more detail. But authors basically tell you all the tea on a podcast. This is not to, make you shy away from buying a book or reading a book. But I'm just saying, if you're crunched for time and reading isn't your thing, then I would say go listen to a podcast of the author and you'll understand what their book is about. So currently today I'm reading 2 books, Morning and Janine and Matthew Hussey's latest book, Love Life. Morning and Janine is a slow read for me as it's about the displacement of Palestinians in 1947. With the current situation in Gaza and too many Piers Morgan episodes I have to ingest, the book has become a bit challenging to read, more like heartbreaking, to be honest. As for Matthew's Hussey book, I'm finding this one a bit harder. I just feel like I'm tired of these relationship books. There's only so much that you could really take. I like his message. I've followed Matthew Hussey for a while, and he has really grown in terms of his work. Personally, I will be taking my time with both of these books. With the relationship books and self-help books, one of the issues I have with it is they have it's like a generalization. And I know no book can be written just for one person or anything like that, but the dating in Trinidad is very stifling. And I don't know if it's the country's so small. I'm not dating anyone in Trinidad or the Caribbean. And I'm okay with nobody wants to date me. I've gotten to the point in my life where I'm like very, very comfortable being on my own. I'm very happy with my peace. I do miss human connection as most people do, but that's why I travel. I travel to see my family. I travel to see my son. The months that I do spend in Trinidad, it's solo, and I'm okay with that. I'm really, really okay with that. But when I was talking about the dating culture in Trinidad, it's just the stories that I hear coming out, from both men and women. It's enough for me to lock myself in my room with the 20 books that I may have on my Kindle that needs to be read. I'm really okay with it. So the other things that I wanted to talk about on the podcast that are going to come up, this is just an introduction, is the crisis that we have with the epidemic of loneliness and human connection, depression, mental health. These are things that sometimes are taboo in Caribbean cultures and, to talk about it. I don't believe in the soft approach sometimes, and I think with the mental health thing, we can become very victimized, play the victim all the time. And it's sort of damaging to our society and to our kids that think that they have a excuse all the time for everything because they just don't feel good. We definitely have a weak society. I think this is globally, nationwide, that our society is really crumbling. Women are tired, and that's the other thing. We have men that are not being men, and we have women that are overworked, tired, and we just don't want the hustle culture anymore. It's sad because Morgan Stanley did a blog, I think in 2022, advising people how to, mostly it would be advising men how to invest and how the trends will go with certain stocks. They predicted that majority of women over the age of 40 are going to be single. And this is how they did their analysis. And when I sat with that blog that they did, the article that they did, I was, honestly, it made me kind of sad because here I am, single for how many years? And this is the prediction. And women, whether they like it or not, are actually being forced to pretend to be happy and single. I don't get how some of these women are showing up online and social media and saying that they have no kids and they don't have a husband and they're totally happy. I don't get it. I've been single for a very long time and I miss having a family. I want a family. But then when you go out there looking for that, it's not available. And as women age, we're not as desirable as a 20-year-old. So that's the thing. We're just having to navigate through social media, and social media tells us that women over the age of 40 are not desirable and not useful. So how do we move forward with that? Now, I'm not saying a woman who is single and 40 or over the age of 40 cannot be happy, that is not attainable. Of course it is. There's lots of them coming out there telling you how happy they are. But I really feel like that's like a 1%. We're not designed to be living alone. And studies and research have shown that people who live alone tend to have a shorter lifespan. We are tribal beings. We need to have human connection. And this is where community comes in, and even community with your religion and community with God, and finding like-minded people, whether it be online or through a gym or through an activity that you like a yoga class or something. And as much as you can find connection online, the brain actually doesn't pick it up that way. As much as we're connected and you can go onto FaceTime and WhatsApp video call, we need human touch and human connection. And that's something that's very dear to my heart that I want to talk about, because I'm seeing a lot of people suffer, and people are still suffering mentally from COVID. COVID hasn't really stopped. I have a friend in Toronto that after COVID, he wasn't the same. And he has a family in terms of he's a single white male, but he is watching everybody, life kind of go on and happen, and having been isolated during COVID, and people have sort of adjusted to that. He hasn't been the same. He still suffers today, with bad episodes of depression. And, that's what it is. The other topic I want to discuss on the podcast that might be like a series or something would be addiction. Addiction runs in my family, so it's something that I want to talk about because I have firsthand experienced it. I also gave up drinking alcohol about 4 years ago. I had quit about 2 years prior to that, and then I started drinking, and I read a book called Quit Like a Woman, and she exposed so many things concerning drinking that really helped me understand this culture, this drinking culture. For me, it was a personal choice that, yes, I don't want to end up like certain family members that are drinking all the time. And then I found myself, at one point, I'm like, oh my God, it's Friday, I need to have a drink. I started questioning these things, like, why do I say these things? Why do I go to alcohol? And there came a point on my healing journey that my body was rejecting it. So where I could have, drank all night and be okay and go to work the next day, my body was no longer processing alcohol that way. And I feel like for me, giving up drinking, it was not only a spiritual thing, it aligned itself being a spiritual thing. Today, we have actually more women that are in rehabs and more women that are addicts than we have men. And that is a societal problem. Why are women feeling that they need to have Chardonnay in their sippy cups to be a good mom, to even survive motherhood? What are we doing with this messaging for women? I don't have a problem with anyone drinking in front of me. I don't have a problem going out and being surrounded by alcohol. What I do have a problem with is people getting sloppy with it. Alcohol ruins a lot of things. Addiction, there is an author, Gabor Mate. He's really excellent. I have followed his work for some time. Besides the part with addiction where I feel repulsed by the person using, because that does happen, we can get very, like, oh my God, the alcoholic is this, the alcoholic is that, or the user is this or that. There's a certain level of compassion I had to learn along the way for a family member of mine that is an alcoholic. When you grow up with alcohol being the cornerstone of destruction in your family and your upbringing, you hate the person because they're an alcoholic, And for me, I had to learn to think like an addict. I had to learn that it's not an easy battle for me to have compassion. I've gotten a lot better with not taking certain things personally. I have gained a lot of knowledge through that one author and understanding how the addictive mind works, but looking at them as human beings. And most of the addicts that I know are very, very intelligent. Like, they're super smart people, like some of the smartest I've ever come across, but it's unfortunate. And there is something that I have seen linked to people with addiction. There is a disconnect with them and God. There is a disconnect. So it makes sense that when people go into programs like AAA, one of the pillars in there, one of the steps in there is a connection to a higher power. So it makes sense. They really are spiritually disconnected individuals and hurting from the inside. So I hope you will join me on this journey of this podcast. And this is the first one. I'm sure I fumbled on a few words, and I hope that I will do better with my speech, with getting messages across to you, and I will be prepared as much as I possibly can. But I'm really trying to ditch the perfectionist aspect of me that I feel like I have to have everything perfectly before I send it out into the world. And I want to take this step as a creative being and have this unfold the way it has to fold. And I'm asking God to just work through me. Let me help who needs to hear me. Let me talk to interesting people, because in this podcast, I just don't want to be speaking on a mic. I want to interview others that have to do with fitness, mindset. You'll be surprised how much healing you could find in a fiction book. And also with the dating and relationship aspect for women over 40. I would really love to get in touch with a few people. I have a goal of sending 100 emails within the next 2 weeks. I've already started so far. I've got 2 replies, but obviously their dates, they're sort of booked up. So look forward to that. And we'll be back soon with the next episode in another 2 weeks. Thanks for listening. Bye.